comes from a jeweler family. Shri Pramod Agarwal has held many key positions in various organizations. He is the only jeweler who is on the board of trade of Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He is currently Vice President of CIBGO, a world jewelry confederation having its head office in Switzerland. He is also the founder chairman of National Gem and Jewelry Council of India. Please help me welcome Mr. Pramod Agarwal. And now let me invite the moderator of this session on stage, Mr. Supreme Kothari, Partner Economic Law Practice. Well, Mr. Supreme Kothari is a partner in the tax practice of ELP. Supreme brings to the table significant experience in handling litigation matters encompassing drafting of replies, filing appeals, and appearing before relevant forums. Well, this session will be moderated by Mr. Supreme Kothari. A very warm welcome, sir. And let's have a big round of applause for all our panelists, Mr. Kaushal Sampath, Mr. Anant Radhakrishnan, and Mr. Pramod Agarwal. Let's have a big round of applause and let's start the session on raising compliance through responsible reporting in India.
Hi, good morning everyone. Rather good afternoon now. This session is very important because it talks about raising compliance through responsible reporting. And we have an esteemed panel, and I'm sure after the end of the session we would be enriched relevant to the subject at hand. But to begin with, I think we should understand where we stand. And from that perspective, I would like to bring Mr. Kaushal Sampath in first. Mr. Kaushal Sampath is basically helming the My KYC initiative of GJPC. What that effectively means is that every member of GJPC or a prospective member before being enrolled undergoes a certain kind of scrutiny and KYC, rather KYM, which process ensures that a certain amount of credibility is associated with every member of GJPC. Now, why that is important? As per the foreign trade policy, every jeweler who is claiming any benefit under the foreign trade policy is liable to mandatorily be registered with the GJPC. So, which means that largely everyone who is a member of GJPC who is claiming export benefit is already at a certain threshold of compliance and a certain threshold of credibility. So from that perspective, Mr. Kaushal Sampath, I would like to understand from you, what is this My KYC initiative? What are the processes involved? How much time it entails? And also, most importantly, what is the kind of document verification or identity verification that is carried out?
Thanks very much, Supreme, and appreciate the questions. On behalf of My KYC, which is a GJPC initiative, it's good to be speaking with everyone, especially since the industry has so wholeheartedly supported the platform. The platform basically makes it possible for people to talk about, their identity and project their identity, their correct identity on a global platform. The My KYC platform is available to members of councils around the world. It's not just GJPC, but it's also the Antwerp and in Dubai. And basically what it does is it validates the identity of the member of the council. It validates the name, the ownership, the address, the tax details, the bank details, and says that the person is, or that entity is, what it claims to be. And the best part is it becomes like a Facebook or a social media platform for exporters. Anyone with your permission can check, a counterparty overseas can check on your identity using the My KYC platform, provided you give it the permission. So if you're dealing with a new entity somewhere in the world, they can come in and check your identity. It is done in 3 very, very simple stages. You apply, on the platform. Within 24 hours, you'll get a link. You upload your documents. Those documents are validated. And what the platform has done is it's made video KYC possible. So through a video KYC process, we are validating all your tax documents, etc., running APIs with the government's database, making sure that those documents are valid. And once that it is valid, we are issuing you my KYC ID, which then becomes your sort of permanent ID in this sense on the platform. It's validated, so you make sure that everything it's okay. And if the documents are correctly given, because we are running other checks as well, like AML, PEP, anti-money laundering, politically exposed persons, etc. Within 24 to 48 hours, you can have a valid KYC available on the platform.
Okay. So that's really insightful, and it gives an insight into the credibility of members, GJPC, and otherwise also which you carry out, you mentioned and specified. Now, but question comes as to whether this exercise is one time or is it recurring? Why so? Because if there is any change in circumstance or fact, and also because of that, if there is any red flagging that happens subsequently, that is part A. And part B is there any instance where, if there is any sensitivity around a certain entity, you have generated any red flags or, cautions?
Yeah, so great question. The exercise is a one-time exercise, but renewed. So the 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 uploading documents, etc., applying for it is a one-time exercise, and then every year, if there's a change, we validate it. So it's an easy process. It's extremely easy. You'll have to do it once, and then annually we'll reach out to you, make sure nothing is really changed. And once that's there, your ID stays valid. If you don't, sort of validate it, your ID expires. And the idea is to keep information current, to keep information about your entity, your identity current. Why? Because banks are using this information. ECGC, which is one of the sponsors today, is using this information. It is very important. I'll give you an example. ECGC, it is, while issuing a policy, looks at my KYC in order to validate the identity of an exporter before issuing the policy in this case. When they do that, and I'll give you a live case, they found someone who submitted documents where only 2 partners were mentioned, whereas on my KYC there were 3 partners mentioned. So immediately a query got raised saying we can't issue this policy until this is there. We reached out to the exporter and said, yes, we've added a partner, but we've sort of not submitted on the documents that were given to ECGC. It happens with banks as well when banks are checking. So it's very important that that information stays updated. And if there is ultimately, as we know with the Financial Action Task Force, Audit of India, etc., given this particular business, it is very important for the ultimate beneficial owner, the UBO, to be known. And that's what we are trying to track of a particular business. So if there is a partnership change, you need to inform us or we need to find that out. The second part is that, is there a red flag? Yes. If we are checking databases both in India as well as globally for change, for example, anti-money laundering, or if you're on a sanctions list, the government is constantly putting out names of entities which are forbidden to do business because they're on some sanctions list, and we're informing the members of the My KYC platform. What happens when someone is a politically exposed person? Or what happens if there is someone is involved in money laundering? If the name is flagged, it automatically becomes a red flag on the entity. So when a bank is looking at you, they say, okay, there's a politically exposed person involved, or there is a red flag involved in some money laundering. But it's not done unilaterally. If a name comes up, say your name comes up, we'll write to you and say, hey, your name is flagging up on this system as being involved in this transaction. Can you please clarify? And we give you 7 days time in which to clarify. If your name, and there are common names in India, which could be a politician, which could be someone else, we make sure that those are sort of then sorted before this flag goes on your name.
I think you have put together a very good process for the industry.
Yes.
So I think it will give more credibility. Now I'll turn to Mr. Anant. Sir, I think you will receive a lot of questions from the audience. So my questions are very limited and are more fundamental. So my first question to you is that, you are a very important stakeholder because you have to balance the twin considerations. On one hand, you have to ensure for this sector specifically that the cross-border movement of goods do not lead to any abuse or revenue leakage. But at the same time, you are also entrusted with administration of policies, say under the foreign trade policy, which effectively are directed towards boosting exports and promoting the sector. So these twin considerations, and you're walking on a tightrope. So how do you balance them? What are the challenges you face? And because we are here as a sector and as an association, what would you expect from us to help you in the process?
Thank you. So this was a nice question and nice way of putting it. In fact, there are huge expectations from the industry to be competitive, but in the same time prevent abuse, because there are always some elements which tries to game the system. So we will have to be cautious, but that should not become a hindrance for a normal trade. So that's a very tight rope to carry on. And of course, thanks to the processes or some kind of a learnings which we have, let us say risk management system or the new processes, we are able to manage it, saying that we specifically are able to identify. We also have authorized economic program where we identify certain entities as an authorized client, so that we are more we are keeping more trust on those people. Let us say status holders, or there are a lot of processes to give a trust, so that our system also entities, so we don't see everybody in the same prism. So there is a
Right.
lot of segmentation which is done.
Right.
So that is how we are able to manage.
Great.
But it is a learning process.
Yeah, it's a two-way learning for us as well. So, there was one instance recently, which I came across. Under the IGCR, the banks carry out imports and they give the gold to the jewelers. Now, under the foreign trade policy, there are wastage norms that are prescribed. A certain incident happened, and wastage norms means that what is exported eventually may be lesser, because there is a process loss which is recognized as per the foreign trade policy. Now, under the IGCR rules, there is Rule 10, which requires that if there is any unutilized quantity, then on that duty payment has to be made. Now, with regard to, I think it was in Delhi somewhere, some customs authorities have taken a position that if the banks or nominated agencies are not providing details of the entire amount that was imported, then the balance quantity, which effectively reflects the wastage, would be construed as being unutilized and it will be effectively taxed. So on that, so these kind of issues are very nuanced for the sector, and there is a very common understanding that this taxpayers understand, and even the officers should understand. So in these sort of situations, and what I'm coming to is that ease of doing business. So specifically with regard to this issue, have you been able to come across this issue? I think GJPC has made representations also, and what is the status? And the larger picture of understanding the sector and not misinterpreting in the sense where practical aspects of the sectors are involved. So if you can touch upon that.
So, of course, when there are multiple legislations, let us say here there is an FTP, then based on the FTP there is a exemption notification, and then there is an IGCR.
Right.
So sometimes it requires harmonious reading of all three notifications, and there have been instances where wrong interpretations are taken. So we had highlighted this issue to Delhi to examine at higher level, because in most instances it is done at the level of the assessment group, which
Right,
is headed
right.
by deputy commissioner. So we had escalated the level to relook at the level of chief commissioner and commissioner.
Right.
So I believe the things would be sorted out.
Great, great. So that's good news for us. Another question that comes to my mind is faceless assessment. So faceless assessment obviously are meant to be a boon for the SSCs and the importers. But with the gem and jewelry industry and the typicality of the product which is imported and the need to have an inspection or some sort of evaluation of the product because of the sensitivity, has faceless assessment been challenging for the gem and jewelry sector? What is your understanding of that? And if yes, is there a way out? And what are the precautions that can be taken?
Faceless assessment is not a there may be a understanding issue, but we are also evolving. Faceless assessment is not a random assessment.
Okay, okay,
So it is infused with a kind of a specialization.
right,
So if you see before the assessment, before faceless assessment came in, so the gems and jewelry used to be assessed in a group 3, which is called, which includes textiles and the gems and jewelry.
right,
All right. And of course, for sectors like for Diamond Plaza, we have a separate assessment system,
correct,
which is not part of a faceless assessment.
right,
And even within after the faceless assessment, considering that it is a specialized commodity, there was a separate group which is created called 3A.
understood,
And it is not being assessed in all. Let us say textiles would be assessed in, let us say, 15 locations across country, whereas gems and jewelry, we know the sensitivity and it is being assessed only in 3 locations,
right,
considering that where are the import volume, considering those things. So government is very, very sensitive to the way faceless assessment is to be done.
yeah,
So it's not a random one, but it is a specialized one.
understood,
So it is done by specialized people, and of course, we are regularly getting an feedback from the trade. In case there are some kind of a changes, we are reviewing it.
right.
So, but if there are specific issues, I'll be free to take it forward.
Sure, I think in the Q&A segment, I think you will have some questions. One question that I remember was asked, and I'll put it to you, was with regard to post-export. After having imported from nominated agency, the star houses are giving the bank guarantee, and then post-export they have to get it released. But in that situation, it was basically requested that instead of bank guarantee, to start with, at least for star houses, can we have LUT kind of mechanism where we give an LUT to the bank for, say, the customs duty and the GST component.
So, in case of let us say notifications like 56 and
Right.
57 of 2000, the obligation of customs is only to the nominated agency.
Right, that's true.
So the nominated agency, indeed, I think, is demanding a bank guarantee to a exporter. So that's not
Right.
prescribed per se by the customs.
Right.
But we will work with nominated agency to see how far we can iron out these things.
Yeah.
And we are also working out having an electronic bond and bank guarantee system, so
Right.
that there could be a regular recredit, because let us say if you import in one consignment 1000 kgs,
Right.
currently it happens that unless you have an obligation fulfilled for all 1000, you will not be able to discharge that bank guarantee for the bank, right?
True.
So we are working out a kind of a partial recredit. It has been in the legislation since 1 year, but there are some IT enablements which has to be done.
Okay.
So let us say if that comes, if a exporter submits a bank guarantee, submits his obligation for, let us say, 10 kgs out of the 1000 kgs which is imported, he should be able to recredit, and then exporter also will get its recredit done. So that's a model which we are working on.
Right.
But of course, there are some system enabled, because IceGate is also going through 1.0 to 2.0.
Right.
So it will happen.
Good. At least it is work in progress, so we'll benefit out of it. With this, I'll bring in Mr. Pramod Derewala so that we have the trader's voice now. So, so you basically are also the chairman of NG JCI. So my first question to you would be in your capacity of chairman of NG JCI. What I want to understand from you, and we are talking about raising compliance through responsible reporting. So through association, what all initiatives जो आपने लिए हैं, in the sense कि we are faced with evolving laws, GST laws आए हैं, PMLA laws में changes हुए हैं. Under PMLA there is a requirement कि every even if you are not registering under the PMLA, you have to appoint a nodal officer. अगर किसी एंटिटी का टर्नओवर 500 करोड़ से ऊपर है तो उसे अपॉइंट करना है, नहीं तो एसोसिएशन कैन एक्ट एज अ नोडल ऑफिसर फॉर ऑल इट्स मेंबर्स हु आर बिलो 500 CR. So in that direction, what are the initiatives as an association that you have taken to increase the compliances?
Good afternoon, my friends on dais and my colleagues. Well, first of all, I must introduce the National Gem and Jewellery Council of India, which is set up by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And we have a board, where is all the major association council is a part of it in the board, which is Gem and Jewellery Export Promotion Council, and the Indian Gem and Jewellery Domestic Council, and many other stakeholders, where we take care of the things of the trade, whatever comes in front. And when things came under PMLA issues, we had series of meetings, and I'm glad that we had a large number of stakeholders has went with me to the Department of Revenue, and we had very fruitful meetings with Additional Secretary Sri Vivek Agrawalji and Director Mr. Thakurji and other members. And we gave them the representations and the hurdles what the industry can face, because it is basically is a whistle blowing. We just let them know if anything is there. So the government wanted member to let know if any suspicious transactions, so, and things will keep, not to disclose that who has been told. So there was a lot of things were there, how will be the single store, multiple store, how will we aggregate 10 lakhs, and what will 50,000 or 2 lakhs. So a lot of things were there. So those all discussion took place, and I'm glad that whoever went with us, they had really good suggestions also. And then we had with us Mr. Vinod Jainji. He's our consultant and chartered accountant from Delhi, and he's a very senior counsel. So he prepared the document and we submitted, and based on that, they did some amendments. Of course, there is amendments which need to be done only in Parliament, because the things that came out from Parliament. But whatever could have been done on the level of the guidelines from the FIU division, they have done very nicely, and they floated where they came out to 500 crore rupees turnover. All those things has been come out from there. So National Gem and Jewellery Council has been very actively worked in the PMLA and with the FIU and with the stakeholders. We did several awareness program also, and our associations, because here is not individual members, he is the member of associations only. Right. So all the associations were also doing the promotions or letting know how to do it, supporting the government to make it successful. And I'm glad that when the review took place for India, and we came, gem and jewelry sector came out in a very, very good, which has not been expected, that clear. And thanks to Government of India, Honorable Prime Minister, for his policy and the decisions which came, which is really streamlined all things in the country.
So just one point which I had asked, you have appointed a nodal officer?
Yes, we did appointed nodal officer, which is Sanjay Singh ji, or Deputy Executive Director.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So my next question to you is, see, in gem and jewelry sector, we always, have certain issues in terms of perception at times. Okay, and our personal experience, we have been dealing with this sector for, couple of decades now as consultants. Our personal experience has been that it comes under the radar not because there is non-compliance or abuse, but because it operates in a very conventional way. Okay, and also because of the nuances of the sector, which at times is very difficult for an adjudicating authority or an officer to understand and appreciate. So do you think that more than systemic changes or legal changes, what is required is a trust building exercise? And if yes, how do you think we can achieve that between the regulators and the industry and the trade?
You see, I had, when I had a meeting, series of meeting with FIU, I said I'm very proud of my industry, because things has changed a lot in the industry. Don't see the industry in the past how it's working, because the government policies came like 2 lakh rupees cash transactions of 50,000. So our industry was following all the rules and regulation already in advance. So that really helped us in this FIU, FATF guidelines. Right. Number two, that industry and the government, of course, the councils are the bridge, right, to take the whatever the representation comes from the industry, wherever the problems are there, and we take very well to the government. And government, I must say, they take very good care. Of course, things sometimes takes time, something which they cannot do it because there is some other background of which we ourselves cannot understand it. They know why they are not able to do it. Like issues like custom duties here and many other drawback things which came out.
Correct, yeah.
Which is a very important issues which came today. So those time to time, whether export related issues which taken care of Gem and Jewellery Export Promotion Council,
right,
and domestically taken by the National Gem and Jewellery Council of India. Now, the good thing in this government, current government, is whatever you go, you get the result. Not like you have to wait a long time. That's a great thing. And our industry is very compliant right now. No one, I don't see anywhere in the world that each piece sold in the country has
Right.
unique identification number, HUID, and which is a very well complied, which is FIU and FAT. If this happened, they were also shocked that India is being very well compliant. So a lot of things are there, and we are working with the government closely and with the stakeholders, whatever the issues come there, and the government.
So I think what you're saying is that we have a very high threshold of compliance already, and,
Yes,
and
it
that's
is
that's
there.
that's great to
Yes,
know. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Mr. Sampath, you wanted to add something. Yeah.
I just wanted to add that, they say that sunshine is the best disinfectant, and it always works like that. When there is clarity, when there is information about a business, it is clearly mentioned. For example, my KYC today has over 11,500 registered members on the platform. When anyone asks about these members, you have all the details that you want validated with a government source. The room for argument goes away because you have hard data, you have the ultimate beneficial owner, you have the address, you have the tax IDs, you have the bank details, you have everything that you need about that entity. There's no scope for argument then. And that just makes it so much more, everyone, whether it's a credit insurance agency, whether it's a bank, whether it's an overseas buyer, whether it's a council, whether it's a government who's looking at it, feels that, we've got a lens on this. It's, all the data is there that we need. Makes it so much easier in that sense. And as Pramodji said, FATF was stunned. We were there in that meeting. They were stunned to see all this, that,
Yeah, we were
that
there,
we
yeah.
had that, yeah.
So I had one question for another panelist who has not arrived today, but I think you can certainly help us with that because you are one leg of that. So in the 22-23 budget, the finance minister had announced that the SEZ system would be integrated with customs, and that IceGate integration would happen with SEZs and all. And I think there's a lot of changes that are happening in that direction, and some processes has been already implemented and all. So in terms of that integration, do you have any idea where are we and what it would mean for the SEZ entities? Because a lot of gem and jewelry units are also housed in SEZs.
So, so there was a review of the facilitation measures which are being offered in the normal custom clearances, let us say risk management or facilitation, paperless clearances, but that was not getting extended to SEZ.
Right.
And to develop duplicate entire thing in a different system was a different thing. So as a government, it was decided that everything would migrate into customs portal.
Right.
So there are some specific processes which are not being done in the normal course. So that required a system development, and we wanted to make it as smooth as possible so that there is no disruption for the trade. So keeping in mind, there are testing going on the development. We have chosen MEPS like
Right.
to be a testing environment where a lot of scenarios are being tested. But separately, IIBX, which is a gift city,
Right.
has already moved into a pilot,
Okay.
and it is functional. So one thing is that the clearances which can happen in IIBX is electronic, and we were able to extend IGCR, UAE SEPA benefits in in the IIBX,
Understood.
and lot other benefits also will come having advantage of having an IceGate system, which is integrated with let us say DGFT licenses and other things. So a lot more to come in that particular thing. So to summarize, we have launched it in IIBX,
Right.
and we have a program to launch it in all the SEZs. Testing is going on. We want it to be as less disruptive as possible.
I know.
So that that's a aim. So we don't want to just roll it everywhere and then have issues.
Correct.
So go it in one place, do it fully. There is a build a confidence, then roll it multiple across.
Got it.
But
So-
it is being reviewed,
Understood.
at the highest
So
level.
even
to
if it
see
is
that,
taking
it's there.
some time, at least it will not have teething issues. We'll try
Yeah.
to ensure that.
Yeah.
So I think with this, we can, and because I think there will be a lot of questions I anticipate for, Mr. Anant. So from that perspective, let us open the forum and maybe, we can take questions. Yeah. We will have some time allocated for questions.
Yes, sir. My question will be addressed to the Honorable Member Customs, and I'm a little bit just, I'm under impression that I can speak about GST as well with you. Am I right, sir?
No, I have a limited, mandate to speak on GST, but I can take your questions.
Yeah,
I
it's,
can
sir,
pass it on to my colleagues.
it is a very important question, and I will request all my members present over here to kindly please give due listening to what I'm asking for. And Mr. Supreme is aware of these things. He is handling the case. The thing is, sir, what I'm asking you is how the trade can save itself from the abuse of authority that these GST officers are making. And the burning case that has happened is in Hyderabad, one party where audit was carried on by your department, and the department took the position that gold has not been defined by the government and there are no standard input-output norms over there, so we will not admit what the process loss has been reflected into the books of the exporter or whoever, whether he is an exporter or whether he is a domestic player. So now the thing is, sir, that it is a common sense. Even a child knows that from one glass of water you cannot fill the another glass exactly same weight. It is impossible, sir. So gold we are giving for, whatever we are giving for input, there cannot be output. And there is a process loss. And that has been well recognized by even the exim policy as well. But leave it apart, sir. What position they have taken is they are taking the shelter of section 17(5)(h), if I am right.
Correct.
And there is a wording that the input will have to be reversed in case of any loss, theft, or like anything like that thing that has to be reversed. Now you see, sir, the word loss, in what connotation it has been used. That if I'm going from here and to deliver something to somewhere else and there is a pickpocketing or some robbery or like that, that loss is a different kind of loss. But when the goods are put into process of manufacturing, then that process loss is embedded into the value of that process loss is embedded into my value addition that I realize from my customer. So that cannot be taken as a loss as has been written in sections 17(5)(h). But they are taking that position that no, there is a word loss over there, and since you have reflected loss, we do not agree. And 1 crore 15 lakh rupees has to be reversed. That has already been adjudicated, sir. Now the party is under a great pressure that what should I do? And apart from that, interest and penalty, that is another thing. Now the thing is not with that party only, sir. Because I sit in Calcutta, I know that this axe is going to fall on my head also. And everybody is going to face this thing. So that's the thing, sir. So where we should go to complain of this thing and get redressal, please guide, sir.
So just to summarize what he's saying is that under GST, there is this situation where you get the input tax credit of whatever you pay on your inputs. But there is section 17(5) which restricts ITC in certain cases. One of the clauses is that if goods are stolen, lost by way of theft or disposed by way of gift and all of that. Now what happens is that gold goes through a manufacturing process. Gold is put into that process and there is a genuine process loss that arises in course of that manufacturing process. The same issue that I discussed with you about the IGCR rules, the same kind of process loss. So there, the authorities have taken a position that no, since this is lost and there is a term called loss in 17(5)(h), you will have to reverse input tax credit corresponding to that amount of gold, say 3%, 4%, which has eventually not formed part of the final product but has been lost in course of the manufacturing process. 17(5)(h) does not seek to cover such instances as Mr. Pinchaji explained. Now, what reason they have given is that we had shown them the foreign trade policy and we had shown them that there are wastage norms there. So there is a very clear recognition within the government machinery also that this process entails certain wastage. But the argument given was that no, this is applicable to exports and we are looking at domestic transactions. So this FTP cannot be applied to, while that is not a very great argument because it effectively reflects the trade realities. So I know you are not helming GST, but
No,
since
I understand this one. But no, just to say GST, in case of GST, whenever there are issues, uh, CBIC and GST Council has been, forthcoming in clarifying a lot of issues. Lot of issues
Yeah,
have
yeah.
been put
I
to
agree.
rest.
Yeah.
So if there is an industry-wide issue, and if this could be a precedent to take it further, you could always represent, and I am sure, as a, we will have a clarification done, because it is already recognized in FTP, and it's a common practice in customs to recognize that waste. So if it is not getting applied, we will, if it is a issue one which is restricted to Hyderabad, we will have a different administrative mechanism.
Right.
But if it is an industry-wide issue, then no, we will have a other thing. So you can forward to us, we will take it forward.
So we
I
have
don't think.
already filed a representation, but the problem is that with GST there was this 31st December deadline to pass the adjudication order. So it was hurriedly passed, and unfortunately with the representation, the people in CBIC and all are right now busy with budget, as you know. So obviously we'll follow up on that, but we have done our bit and we hope that it get resolved. Mr. Pinchaji, I think has a, yeah.
Supplement to my submission, what my concern is not for this particular case that we get a clarification. The thing is that the officers, it cannot be assumed that they don't understand. The person sitting in the chair of the commissioner, he doesn't understand that there is, yes, there is a genuine process loss in every production process. What they have done is abuse of authority, sir. So we need protection, sir, from the abuse of authority of these officers, sir. Because he is not going to lose a single rupee of his salary by doing this. But I am dead.
I understand your issue, so I will also take it forward. But we can't generalize one person's action with the entire authority. But having said that, we will take your issue. We will see that it comes to a logical end.
So this is with respect to the shipping bills filed on EDI. Once the export has happened and the goods have left the country, the LEO, the let export order, cannot be amended as per the current norms, leaving no room for mistakes done, clerical errors done by the exporter or the CHA. I'm sure the government has some thought process behind it to avoid making the amendment to the LEO. But so there have been so many cases in the country where due to clerical errors, the exporters have suffered, and leading to a scenario where there is a huge financial loss because of some error done by some staff while putting the e-Sanchit details on the shipping bill. So I would request you to help us or to show, make a process where the amendment can be done provided the Chief Commissioner of that port also we get his approval and permission to amend. Let there be some window open for the exporter to file his case.
So, that's a good point. See, actually, what we have done in many cases, there are processes where, because of the clerical error, if there are some benefits which are stuck, let us say drawback or IGST or anything, there is already an interface with an officer to rectify that one. But we are also thinking of a separate module where, in case there are some grammar, some typographical errors which are there, but it is apparent from the other records. So we are evolving a process in the system to have that amended. So that's there. But if there are some specific issues, you can always point it out. We will find an interim solution.
So that will really help everybody, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that really helps. I think that would be a great boon. Yeah.
To err is human, and if I've erred, I should not be killed.
No, I understand. So that's a policy as well.
Sir did not need a microphone. His emotions were so strong. So, any other questions that we have? Yeah, I think it's a question there.
Sir, for MSME sector, the policy, import policy, export policy is clear. But then there are still hurdles. The intention of the government is clear. They want to refund all the duties, which in drawback are never done. They are lacking 2 to 3%. Then there is a provision that supplier can supply the metal. Again, when it comes to custom, they say first deposit the duty, then take it. It should be duty free. That is what the policy specifies. But when it comes to execution, it's impossible. And MSME exporter is not going to get very large quantities. So another problem is the quantum. So unless the government, which want the MSME to grow and also the export to grow, unless these hurdles are removed, unless we are not able to procure in nutshell our input, the raw material, metal at the international prices, how can we export competitively at the international market? So this is one hurdle. Second hurdle is regarding hand carriage. Policy permits hand carriage of shipment also. But when it comes to getting benefits, first of all, the ICE gate. Your IGM is not recorded on gate, and we had made a suggestion why the export terminal is also not there at the airport, so that a lot of exports are going on through exhibition and hand carriage. And for MSME exporter to hand carry a small shipment is the most prudent and safe way. The small shipments are lost even even if we spend a lot of money with the logistic companies. So my request is that please remove these hurdles. These are procedural hurdles. On ICE gate, it should be incorporated the IGM or the flight number when the person is departing at the airport. There is presently no provision, and all the people, still lot of claims are pending, and they are sitting here. For the people who participate in exhibition, their bill of entry is not recorded, and there is another corollary to that. Their remittances are not getting upgraded because the bill of entry is not reflecting on ICE with the bank. So it's creating a procedural system problem for MSME exporters in particular. So kindly honor the Honorable Prime Minister vision to increase the MSME exports.
So I
Thank
think
you
for
very much.
MSME, I think you have raised several issues. So I think we can take them offline. I think you can share a document with the council or with any other association. And then I think these are issues that really require consideration because we are all focused on promoting MSMEs. So I think we'll take it that way. We can take one last question, and because we have, yeah, you can address, yeah.
So we will have a detailed discussion with respect to suggestions, and we can also list it down. But I just wanted to highlight one or two issues. In case of MSMEs getting a very small amount of gold, in FTP the quantity allowed is from 10 grams. But of course, logistics and other things stops it from doing it. So we need to have not only within government but overall discussion how to do that. But we can steer at that one. But with respect to hand carriage, we are already aware of the issue, and we had discussion with systems. They are developing a module where they will be able to have a proof of export done using your PNR, which is the PNR of your ticket. So that process is already on. So you will have a module in the system where you will be able to file a shipping bill, get everything done. Then once you come to a airport in your terminal, put your PNR, then it is considered as a proof of export. That's the thing which is there. But we are very sensitive. We wanted to promote hand carriage. It will be done. So be rest assured.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
No, with respect to drawback, once that is an online, you will have all the facilities. But with respect to the rate, I think JS drawback is already looking into it.
Sir, may I ask the question in Hindi? ये जो स्मगलिंग हो रही है, इसके हमारी जो सीजर होती है, अकॉर्डिंगली हम उसको देखते हैं कि भाई बहुत थोड़ी सी स्मगलिंग हो रही है, लेकिन आज भी स्मगलिंग जितना हमारा इंपोर्ट होता है, उससे डबल कहीं ना कहीं ग्रे मार्केट में सेल होती है. आप उसको बढ़िया से जांचिए, और कस्टम ड्यूटी यदि आपकी इतनी रहेगी 15% जो भी है, तो ये स्मगलिंग कभी बंद नहीं होगी सर. ये 140 करोड़ लोगों का देश है. इट इज़ क्वाइट डिफिकल्ट टू स्टॉप दिस. मैंने बार बार सजेशन दिया है, इट शुड बी 4.5%, हाईएस्ट 5%. इफ यू गो इन द प्रीवियस रिकॉर्ड यू विल फाइंड दैट at that moment, while it was 4.5%, no smuggling was on. That was completely stopped. So my humble suggestion is, sir, ये देश हमारा है. Ultimately, we have to pay. Directly or indirectly, we are paying. Please, sir.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Can
Go
I
on,
ask
go on,
my
yeah.
question?
We'll take more questions later. Thank you so much.
So
And
just one point, I think after this, why I wanted to mention it is because we are talking about increasing compliance through responsible reporting. So immediately after this, I think there's a session Mr. Sohail Nathani is taking up.
yes, yes.
And why it is linked to this is because that also is in relation to a standard operating procedure that has been prepared by GJPC in collaboration with Economic Laws Practice, and Mr. Sohail Lathani is the managing partner of ELP, and that will touch upon certain reporting aspects of how that SOP has in fact curated 5 different laws together and brought out in respect of each transaction how that can be carried out. So just mention that before we
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
So there is next session wherein we'll be taking care of all your questions and your queries. So just relax, sit back, and enjoy the next session. For as of now, I want to thank all our panelists for doing such a wonderful job and answering to all the questions of our guests. So to thank specially all our panelists, I would like to invite on stage Pankaj Parekh, Regional Chairman, Eastern Region, GJEPC, and Vijay Mangokia, Regional Chairman, Surat Region, to please come up on stage and present a memento to all our panelists. Mr. Pankaj Parekh and Mr. Vijay to please join us on stage. Well, let's have a huge round of applause for all our panelists. Mr. Kaushal Sampath, Mr. Anant Radhakrishnan, and Mr. Pramod Agrawal. Also would like to take this opportunity to thank our moderator, Mr. Supreme Kothari. Thank you so much for a wonderful session. Let's have a huge round of applause.